The Baka-Busters podcast is a proud member of the Pod Bros Network, where you can find us as well as other excellent podcasts such as Sarcasm City, Worst Millennials, and Late Night Gamers at podbros.com. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of the Baka-Busters podcast.
Tonight's story is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction.
Who's going on? Today we are canceling the apocalypse!
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
And this is?
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Houston, we have a problem.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Now, where was I?
Hello and welcome to another episode of Baka-Busters. I'm Paul, and back with me once again is Pat. How you doing?
What's up?
Yes,
Party in the house.
Oh yes, woot woot and all that. So as you can probably tell by whatever I've called this episode, we are going to be talking about the series RWBY, and specifically the first season of RWBY, which we have both recently rewatched. And before we go into that, just to throw out all of the nuts and bolts here, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Blokebusters. You can email us at theblokes@blokebusters.com. We do have a Patreon page, which I don't mention as often as I should. It's patreon.com/blokebusterspodcast. If you could check us out on there, and even just give us, the first tier, just $1 a month. It's really not too much, and it would very much help keep the lights going. Just this little podcast. And if you decide you wish to give more, there are some tiers that could be interesting to you, and hell, maybe we'll give you your own nickname or something, just because you deserve it. But yes, so that's really all I need to say about us out the way. So I say we get going with talking about RWBY, because there is actually quite a lot to talk about here.
Just 1 or 37 different facts.
Yeah, well. So for those of you that don't know what RWBY is a show that was created by a man called Monty Ohm, and he
severely missed.
Yes, he was working at Rooster Teeth, and he was working on Red vs. Blue, which is their signature show. And during the 10th season, I believe it was, he went to Bernie Burns, who at the time was running the company, and said, "Hey, I have an idea for a show I'd like to do."
I think it was the other way around, that the fact that Bernie saw how hard Monty worked, and he wanted to, because Monty for years has always made his own side projects. He's always had a bunch of them. So I think Bernie came to Monty and said, "Do you have an idea for a show?" And Monty pitched it.
Probably. You might know more than me for that. But that's fine. But I do know that when the show was pitched to Bernie, he basically said, "If you finish season 10, you can do what you want."
Yeah.
So Monty finished season 10, and he even managed to create the first trailer to premiere at the end of the season 10 finale. So he was able to really power that out.
And well, apparently, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and it kind of is interesting, because if you go and watch that first trailer, which is just the red trailer, it's still phenomenal. Even if you compare it to how the show looks now, it's such a wonderfully stylized trailer and so well done. So, what were you about to say?
I was going to say that I was surprised to find out I was listening to the director commentary. So when he created the trailers, one, it was just to advertise the show, no brainer there. But actually, it was a lot of just to test to see, could you make animatics with that format? Because he was branching out the world, but he wasn't sure how the rigs were going to work and all that. So actually, it was also a test for him to see if he could create a program to which other people could come on and do it with him. Yeah, so I thought that was fascinating. Like, he was not only was he creating the show, he's like, now I got to bring others on with me, so I got to create the program that they'll all work in.
Yeah, got to figure out how to use this one program and then teach everyone else how to use said program.
Yeah, so
yeah, it was interesting that the show. I remember seeing the trailers when they came out, and it was just really cool to watch and go, okay, so there's a real specific style to these, and it was interesting to watch it grow, even just through the trailers. Because the first two don't have any voice work. Mm-hmm. And then the black and yellow trailers did.
Dude, I remember watching the RWBY trailer, and I go, okay, I like this. This is kind of cool. This matches with what I grew up watching of Monty. I kind of watched Wyatt. Yeah, all right. This is all right. Black was okay. And then when I saw the Yang one, I'm like, damn, I got to watch this. This is my jam.
Yeah, I mean, well... Yang is just a very interesting character.
Just slightly.
But yeah, I have a quote here from Monty, and he said, "My vision for the show was to present a two-dimensional, toon-shaded look, but with all the depth and complexity of a 3D animated production. I wanted to be able to move the cameras and characters freely while still capturing the essence of the flat, line-drawn look of traditional anime." And I didn't even really think about that, but like, reading that and thinking back on rewatching season 1, it is kind of blaringly obvious that that's actually the case. Yeah, and especially during a couple of moments where RWBY does go full anime.
Well, it's kind of weird to see, like, you know, in retrospective, like, I don't feel like they dive a lot into those anime tropiness anymore. Because like the first season, I feel like they stuck to a lot of those like chibi little things, cute little things, all that. But like they kind of strayed away for as the longer went on.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, full disclosure, I am somewhere in the middle of season 4 right now, so I have not caught up to where they are.
And don't worry, I won't spoil anything. This whole discussion will just be about, you know, the retrospective of season 1 and maybe just some of our thoughts on like as the series progressed from our viewpoint. Because the RWBY today is not the RWBY, or the RWBY today is not the RWBY it was when it started.
No, definitely not.
No.
And that's really cool. Actually, I will say it's been very interesting watching a show that evolved this much over such a short amount of time. I mean, Red vs. Blue obviously evolved, and they started trying new things as they got access to better engines and better stuff, and they were feeling able to really take risks, whereas RWBY, as the series kept going, they were able to do more, and then they were willing to just go, all right, like, we're going all in on this straight away. So it's always fun to see.
Yeah.
So I think probably a good place to start then is you've got your 4 main characters, and obviously we're going to have to talk about them only in season 1.
Yep.
But
the big there's a whole big cast. Are we just sticking to the main 4 or the main 8?
Well, I would say right now, just beginning off, you've got RWBY, as in RWBY, so the main 4 there.
Yeah.
Which of those 4, based solely on the first season, is your favorite?
Based solely on the first season. First season only, I would have to put my money on Blake.
I can definitely see why you're saying that, because she's definitely the most interesting of them.
I think she has the most character growth of the first season.
But,
you know, everyone had their moments of shine, but I feel like Blake really got a bit. Like I'm surprised how much, and this isn't a spoiler, but like how much the things they revealed in this season have still repercussions to the current episodes.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll say right now, full spoilers for the first season of because there's no way we can talk about it without talking about it.
Well, if you're doing a retrospective of the first season, we're bound to cover things that you probably should know already.
Yes, so anyone that has not watched RWBY and is going, I think I should just watch it now. It's just under 2 hours if you watch the whole thing. Watch it.
Hour and 40 minutes, exactly.
Oh, there you go.
I know, because I've had to watch it twice.
But yes, you got Blake being exposed as a faunus, which is, in this world, it's someone who has animal traits, basically. So she happened to have cat ears, and other people in this world, they might have a monkey's tail and be,
Sun Wukong! My favorite character. I love Sun. Voiced by Michael. I love that guy. He's my favorite. All right, I'll stop.
No, yeah, I mean, he becomes really cool.
Yeah, he does.
But yeah, the show really start delving into some interesting stuff about that, and it's clear that the faunus are seen, especially by some, aka Weiss, as people that are no good and always causing issues, and that's only because an organization that was started by a bunch of faunus ended up going down the terrorist route. So, and that's pretty much all that we get in the first season.
True, but isn't it kind of... I only caught into this on the second viewing. I didn't realize that they made a point to make Weiss's side of the argument somewhat understandable as well, because she was a victim of the terrorist attacks. Yeah. Like, it's never really explained in the show, but it's very clear that her eye injury was from one of those attacks.
Yeah, it's really, really cool that they actually gave these characters like proper reasons for believing the way they do, even this early on. And it's so cool, and there's so many things upon rewatching it that I realized, as you said earlier, like, it's something that is just kind of thrown out, but we know, and I know for a fact because I've heard many people from Rooster Teeth mentioning it, that Monty had a Bible of the show, and they're still referring to it and still pulling from it now.
It was still crazy. So listening to the director commentary, Monty made quite a few references to the Bible that he created for the show. Specifically, he created the Bible for the 4 main characters that, as you said, carry on in today. Now, he didn't, sadly, due to his passing, like, he didn't have the entire cast, but as you said, like, the 4 main characters and the 4 side characters, he has a Bible for all of them that they are clearly fleshed out in his mind even before he started the show. I'm like, dang. Monty overworking himself again.
Yeah, I mean, when he had the inspiration, that guy could really do something. So, yeah.
And it's crazy to think, like, and we'll get into it, but like I was amazed to find out like the scenes that were solely him.
Right.
It's like he did this whole part by himself. Holy moly! So
well, this is a guy that would work for 72 hours in a row and then just sleep for an hour and then continue.
He was also like, if you ever saw like videos with him, you looked at his like desk workstation, like on his keyboard, he had removed buttons on his keyboard. If he found that they were redundant and he didn't serve them well and make them efficient, he yanked them out.
Yep, so he could never accidentally touch them.
Yep.
And just gone.
He's like, he was the definition of I will be productive with every single minute of my time. Like, wow.
Yeah, well, there was a saying, and obviously we're tangenting a little bit, but to really drive that home, Bernie Burns mentioned in the one podcast they did after he died that he was the type of guy that would put in 5 minutes and 55 seconds and then hit start on the microphone rather than 6 minutes, because then he would have to move his finger an extra time, and so he wouldn't do that.
He just hit 5 3 times versus like 600.
Yeah, so anything that was saving half a second he would do, because that's just what he did. So
But to steer us back onto your conversation with Blake, I was amazed. I didn't realize this, and I feel stupid now in retrospect. Think about it. He was clear to point in the story, like you're talking about Blake. He made a point to make Blake the dichotomy of, they're talking about they're fighting the Grimm.
Yeah.
And you see her after her identity is revealed. She's standing before the statue, staring at the Grimm, and so she's having to ask herself, am I just a beast as well? I'm like, I didn't catch on to that. No wonder they're so ashamed of themselves. Like, not only are they discriminated on, they have to deal with the identity. Are they themselves beasts? Like, I completely failed at that.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting. Just the little things that they put in throughout the show. And
oh yeah,
it can just be little tiny beats that don't mean anything until you know something later on. So the show's almost built for rewatching.
Oh, it is, because I found out they intentionally were always planting seeds. Always planting seeds.
Yeah.
It's like, dang.
It's such a great thing about this show is that it will hold up, even if the animation is not necessarily what you would appreciate given what the show looks like now and all of that stuff, but there's so much stuff in it. The content that's there is so interesting, and then when you know more, there's even more for you to see now, once you rewatch it.
Here's a quick question for you. If they had, with Rooster Teeth or with Red vs. Blue, they remastered the entire first season, as the series went on.
Yeah.
Would you like the idea of them remastering the first season of RWBY? Because I was playing around with the idea today. I was like, I don't know.
I could see that being a good idea just from the standpoint of bringing new people in. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to watch that. I think just watching the show progress as it did, and so for instance, in the first series, I'm sure we'll mention in a second, but the characters that are in it that are main characters, you see them, they're all fine. Anyone that isn't a main character that doesn't have speaking line is just a black shadow in the first series for the most part.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was a time-saving thing, but it kind of helped to show as the series then progressed that they were growing in their ability to be like, okay, now we have more time on this, but also I feel like it helped show the world filling in, and it's unintentionally, I'm sure, but to me it also seems like the show for the most part is told from the point of view of RWBY, Wise, Blake, and Yang, and then you also see some of the others. But I feel like you're kind of seeing what they're seeing. They're not paying attention to the people that are around them, especially RWBY when she first goes to the academy. She's just paying attention to all of the stuff. She doesn't care about the people around her. And I feel like as she grows more mature, she's starting to notice all of the people around her, and so we see it. And obviously that is not at all what they were going for.
No.
It adds an extra layer to me just watching it.
No.
So.
It's cool to realize how much they grown the show, as you've been saying, with the fact that the show started off with a handful of animators. I think at least the first season was 20 animators. Right. And I think now they bring on at least 100 per season.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, this is a massive show for them. Yeah,
so it's a huge show for them, but it's just it's not surprising to see these massive jumps in quality. So as I was watching the season, like I said, it still holds up. It's still solid, but you still see kind of choppiness to the walking animations. To where I look at the newest seasons now, I'm like, I don't see any of that. So it's a credit to how well they nailed it on the first go around. They're like, okay, this is our one season. We got to bring out all the stops, and even the minor flaws still make it shine bright. So
yeah. And to bring it all the way back to the question that I originally asked, my favorite.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am not the best for staying on task.
I think anyone that listens to this podcast knows that we are never very good at the
No.
task.
Who's yours?
Yeah, my favorite out of the four is actually Yang, and it's not because I think she's the best character, but it's because I think Barbara Dunkelman is just absolutely perfect as her.
She is.
And it's so much fun. In fact, probably my favorite line in the entire show is just something incredibly stupid, but it's from Yang, and it's when they're right at the beginning of the whole series, when they're flying into the academy, and someone pops up to give the announcement, and Yang goes, "Who's that?" And then the the announcement said it, and she just goes, "Oh."
Oh.
For whatever reason, that just stuck with me.
It is. I was listening to it again today, and I still chuckled at that scene. I'm like, "Ooh, what? Oh, never mind. That shit's just quiet."
Yeah, just an immediate response to the question. Oh, okay.
I kind of like it because it makes it feel like it's not scripted. Like that's those moments that make you realize, like, oh, these are characters. Like they have their quirks. Like who hasn't done that? Like, but wait, what about? Oh, they're answering my question right now.
Yes, no. Yeah, and it again, like, obviously not touching on anything in the next few seasons, but it is very cool to see young Yang as opposed to later Yang. So
yes. But I won't lie, I still adore Ruby and the voice actor there, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I cannot. If you put any other voice on it, I can't imagine anyone else on that character.
No, yeah, it's really interesting as well because obviously having watched Achievement Hunter stuff and Rooster Teeth stuff, I have seen Lindsay in a lot of things. I've heard her normal voice.
Yeah.
And I still can't picture her doing this voice. Even though I have seen video of her doing this voice, I just can't put the two together. So it kind of
she's
shows
a dedicated
how
voice actor, though.
Yeah.
Like she'll spend. I think I've seen videos. Like she'll spend like 20 minutes just trying to get into that mindset of Ruby, and then start talking. I was like, "Whoa, wow!" So
yeah, and it's really cool as well because Lindsay hadn't really done any voice work before this, and they gave her the lead role. So it's really interesting that they were willing to give her a chance on it, and clearly she wouldn't have been chosen because Monty wouldn't have let someone that wasn't able to do it. So
yeah, they were very dedicated to whoever we pick. We're sticking long guns, and that's what I've always loved about Rooster Teeth shows in general. They're not. I love it when they do bring in like new voice actors, new all that stuff. Even bringing in big wigs. Like I know the new Gen 13, they just brought on David Tennant onto the show. I'm like, holy moly! But I've always loved the fact that they've always tried to keep it all internal.
Yeah. I mean, there's always that level of, there's always a cameo here and there for those that are big fans of Rooster Teeth and Achievement Hunter, and there is that little level of just, hey, we always do this, so here's a little nod to you, but it's never completely pointless. Mm-hmm. It's always something that's really cool. I think one of my favorite things when I was watching it was how much Ryan Hayworth's character. I love his character for some reason. I don't know what it is. It's just like
I
the
think
voice he does. It's just.
Are you endeared to him because of the Minecraft things when he would torture the cows?
I mean, Edgar is the one in the hole, so
he is. So, like, ever since he's done that, every time I hear his voice now, I'm like, it's Ryan!
Right? Yeah, I mean, there is something to be said for the Mad King. It's just...
Mad King Ryan.
But no, like, he's clearly having, and I've said this many, many times about various things, but one of the things I love most is when you can tell that someone is having fun.
I think all of them are always having fun, though.
Oh yeah, they're always.
I don't think
having
any
fun.
voice actor ever feels like they're cutting it halfway. Like they seem like they're genuinely just having a blast up there.
Oh well, I mean, always. I know that you were listening to it, and I've been catching up on the latest episode. But Rob Paulson Talking Tune podcast, you can tell just from listening to that, every single voice actor, and Rob Paulson himself says nobody puts a gun to your head and tells you that you must be a voice actor. They're all there because they love it. But definitely Ryan Hayward and Joel Heyman.
Dang it, yes!
Yeah, I mean, Joel Heyman is just going absolutely insane in this show.
Love Oobleck. He is my favorite side character. I love it when he pops up. I go nuts whenever I see him now.
Yeah, and it's just... Yeah, it is Joel Heyman on double speed. It's basically what his character is.
But I love that they just created a character that's just super, super hyped up. Hello, children. What are you doing today? Good old chaps. Another spot of cup of tea. just always going nuts.
Yeah, it's almost like they realized that they couldn't have Ruby be incredibly hyper every single time, so they just were like, Joel, would you mind being this?
Shout out to this. Not only did they flesh out the students, they fleshed out the teachers, man. I gotta give them props for that. Not many kid TV shows are willing to flesh out the teachers.
No.
Because, I feel like Oobleck and Professor Port both had really serious moments, even in the first season. That was just like, wow.
Yeah, they definitely did. And, again, not touching on it, but they have very cool beats in season 2 and 3 as well. So,
oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's really cool just to listen to these characters as they're carrying on through the series, and even just what seem like little bit parts, like the teachers, as you say, they grow into these incredibly important characters, and if you're paying attention, you can really see the character growth in these characters that you wouldn't expect. So, yeah, it really is just a lot of fun, and
the whole show's fun.
Yeah, one of the main reasons why I've enjoyed watching it so much.
Heck, the first episode, I think I got sold on the bat. Is first episode, there's a store robbery going on, and Ruby's just sitting in the back listening to music. And the robbers stop her, and she's like, "What?" They're like, "Wait, we're robbing the place." And she goes, "You are?" She's like, it's just great.
Yeah, and yeah, just watching that whole thing where it's even though I'd seen the Red trailer and then I started watching this, it was still just fun to just see this little girl to bust out the biggest scythe in the world.
I've always loved when she busts out her scythe, when she shows Jean, she's like, "Oh, it's nothing," and just pops out the giant thing, and John's like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, and she just, it's also a gun.
Yeah, it's a gun. Oh, okay.
Yeah, again, so many great little bits from the character. As you said earlier, it really does help just to kind of flesh them out. Like when Jean is talking about his shield, and he's like, "And look, it gets smaller," and she's like, "Doesn't it still weigh the same?" Yeah.
But it was fascinating listening to the director commentary on the characters. They were very clear to find those quirks about them. So Ruby is the hyperactive one, but when Monty refers to his Bible, I can't remember who drinks tea and who drinks coffee. It was Blake drinks coffee, and Weiss drinks tea.
Yes,
which is huge. It's minor to us, but that's huge in understanding the characters. The small quirks about them is what helps to define them overall. It's that it helps to build off of those small things as you get more into their characters, like you start to see those small things that you can relate to. Yeah, that person, I can see that in me, and I can see this in me. Like, it was really cool to see that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, and also it's got that, and I'm sure that's why it's in there, that subtle nod to someone who drinks tea is stereotypically someone that would be more upper class than someone that just drinks coffee.
Yeah.
Even though that might not actually be the case, that's just how it's perceived. So it definitely helps to sell Weiss as being this upper class brat that's a know-it-all, and she very much is.
So we've talked about the characters that we most enjoyed. Was there a character just from the first season that you were kind of like really surprised by the overall growth outside of the main four, or just even if it is just the main four, like things that like shocked you about the season as you watched it from beginning to end?
You know, the thing that really shocked me the most about the first season was the fact that in this show called RWBY, about the realistically it's about the four main characters primarily, but they spent so much time on the other teams and the other characters, like is it Juniper?
Yes.
And what's the other one that really important in that one?
Kryl?
I know, it's like, which one?
And I'm trying to find those people now.
Cardinal,
that's it.
and then you do have others later, but those were the ones that really stuck out in this one. And there was so much dedicated to these characters that you had no idea. I mean, obviously, since they were the ones that weren't black and faded in the background, you knew that they would have speaking roles and that, but especially Jean and Pyra, that relationship, which
that
really
whole
cool.
revelation of Jean as this show, because I remember watching the first episode and I'm like, I don't know how, or even the second episode, when you're watching Jean, you're like, he's a typical nerdy kid. And they've done amazing stuff with Jean. He is by far, of all the RWBY character, every single character, he is my character that I will follow. He is, to me, he most reminds me of myself. Now that I've gotten to know him, like, he is a very diverse. Every character, let's be clear, every character is very well defined and has amazing backstories. But I don't know why, I just really resonate with Jean. I love that guy.
You know, I can see why you might resonate with Jean, especially the first series where he is someone that's he's not totally sure of himself, and as you see during the series, there's a very good reason for that.
Yeah,
but yeah, he definitely comes into his own as even as this series goes on, let alone later ones. And as I said, the relationship between Jean and Pyra is fantastic to watch in this season.
Great chemistry, though.
Yeah.
I had to really recognize, like, like most of the time of selling like movies, like when you see a couple or people getting together, they have to have good chemistry. I was really surprised thinking about, like, these two do have surprisingly charming chemistry with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
not even in that romantic sense, but like as friends, like you really get that sense of like, okay, these are people who, even though they've gotten to know each other, like they've really kind of hit it off.
Yeah, it was really cool to watch, especially when you can tell Jean is someone that is always doubting himself and doesn't really stand up for himself, and Pyra recognizes that in him and knows that despite all of that, he can be better and can strive for more, and she just wants to pull that out of him. And it's not explicitly stated, and they obviously touch on it a little bit more after the season, but it's so well done without hitting you over the head with it.
So, here's the thing I didn't realize. I learned this today at listening to the director commentary. So when we talk about Jean growing a lot in this season, apparently the big thing for Pyra learning in this season, because it's not really expressed, but I didn't realize until they said it, like the thing for Kira to realize is that there are going to be people who are not going to want your help, even though they clearly need it. So like John, like straight up refusing her repeatedly, she always just kept trying to help him. She's like, you don't understand. I don't want your help. And that's like in Pyra's yeah, I can't say it right. Yeah. But that's it very much built into her nature that she wants to help people even when they don't want it. It's like, oh, I didn't catch on to that.
Yeah, no, she's very matter of fact, just like, oh, here, let me help. But yeah, obviously
she might not realize that people don't want it.
Yeah, that's again a very recognizable trait. So.
Yes. Okay, one last chemistry discussion. How perfect is RWBY and Yang dynamic?
I mean, yeah,
it's so good for siblings.
Yeah, and that is one thing as well that I again really enjoyed about this series, because I obviously know more having seen later series, but they mention several times that RWBY is Yang's sister, and that is it. Like, you get no other details. There's no explanation about anything else past that. And I remember watching this and going through it and just being like their sister? Really? There's sisters? Because they're obviously very different personality-wise. They're very different aesthetically, and they even have slightly different ways of talking. So it's like I went through the series just going, how are they sisters? Like, they clearly have very different backgrounds and even upbringing a little bit. So it's like, what's happened here? And again, this isn't a show that will tell you. Like,
well, eventually, but that's the whole, like, planting those seeds.
Yeah, it's just something that it'll get to it when it gets to it at a good point in the story. It's not one of those things that you see, especially in old man mode on TV nowadays. You can't really hold a mystery over someone's head for several seasons.
Lost
in American TV. I'm not a fan of Lost. I'll just say that. Not a fan of that show.
I'm one of those who really love Lost, and as I've gotten older, I'm like, Lost is really kind of stupid when you think about it.
Well, I watched the first episode with my housemates when we were at university, and that was the first episode that aired on TV, so we watched that. And we finished the first episode, and I turned to them and said, I will not be watching any more of that. And I didn't. I didn't watch any more Lost, and they got thoroughly into it, and they got through it. And then I remember watching on Facebook about 5 minutes after the finale aired, and just watching their disappointment, shall we say, at how some things were not covered, and some things were just left completely dangling, and then some things were unsatisfactorily talked about. So it's like, I saw them just pop this out on Facebook, and I sent them both a text just being like, told you.
Yeah. But whereas Lost did that, RWBY...
yeah, RWBY...
I like how they handled the White Fang, because like that was like kind of the first mystery they introduced. Like there were tons of mysteries, but I think like that was their first, like, we're gonna flesh this out this season, and then we're gonna expand more. But that was I feel like that. Would you agree that's like the first mystery that they present and then show you by the end of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, especially being able to go back with knowledge of what's to come.
Yeah.
There are many things in the first series that you don't realize are going to be mysteries that will pop up. But yes, I would say that the White Fang is the first thing that gets fleshed out that starts out as a real mystery. I mean, obviously you've got the very, very beginning with someone that you don't know, but turned out to be Cinder, and like that just is like, oh, that's kind of interesting. You don't see her face, and then you don't really see her very much at all.
Well, they technically they showed off Cinder at the very end of season 1.
Yeah.
Post-credit. It's crazy. I didn't realize this. I've totally forgot. RWBY does post-credit scenes at the end of the seasons.
Yeah. Yeah, I do enjoy something like that, especially if it's something that helps set up the next season, which is what they did very well. But yeah, it was something where I saw the first episode, and you see Cinder without seeing Cinder, really, in the first episode. And then it's like, oh, so this is going to be the main antagonist of the series. Nope. Nope. Like, just an interesting character that does come back, but isn't the main focus of the show. Yeah. And then you get this delving into the White Fang just because it's a major sticking point between two of the main characters, and because of that it gets delved into, and it's very natural, which is astounding. Okay, I mean, even say regular anime, you get a lot of stuff where it's like, oh well, there's this one thing, and then you just get an entire 30-minute side episode which is like a flashback. And then it's like, okay, well, now you know everything you need to know about this. Let's move forward. And this show, again, doesn't do that. Nope. At least not now. So, yeah, it's kind of a breath of fresh air, really.
It is. As, you know, as both of us are big anime fans, I'm really shocked how, like, and I do throw this in the anime category.
Yeah, I would too.
Because given how it's one of those shows, like you've heard of shows that like get hyped before they get started. There were people cosplaying RWBY before year or two before you even went to syndication.
Yeah,
that's how big of an impact it had on, you know, the community. And then when it came out, it's become such a phenomenon that even overseas, you know, in Japan, they're like, RWBY is the jam. You know, like it is like the Full Metal Alchemist to their culture as it is to our culture.
Yeah,
and it's weird to say that out loud, like, because when you really compare it to other animes, like this follows a lot of tropes. I feel like RWBY doesn't fall into too many tropes because they're always keeping you on your toes.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting as well because obviously Monty, huge anime fan.
Oh,
absolutely massive anime fan, and it's clear just watching the show, even if you don't watch all of the animes that this show references in one way or another, it's clear that there are many anime references in it, and also tropes that they use and play with. But often what I've found that they do is they will use an anime trope for like 5 seconds, and then it's like, and that's the end of that. Such as like whenever RWBY is kind of getting incredibly animated and she's just darting all over the place. Something like it, and it only happens like 2 or 3 times, and it's always someone else just stops her when she's doing it, and then you just continue on. It's like, it's not something that happens in every episode. It's not something that happens every 2 episodes. It's just oh, she's that excited, and like off she goes, and then that's it. So
yeah,
nice to see that. It's not something that is so regular that this will always happen here. This will always happen here. So again, it's nice.
No, it really is. I just enjoyed RWBY just because it breaks every trend. It defies anime. It defies traditional television style because it's not a typical 30-minute show. Some episodes are 30 minutes, but like some episodes are 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So every single time it's just, and not only that, it comes out on a dedicated website. It's not a YouTube special show. It's by Rooster Teeth, and Rooster Teeth, by its very nature, has been trend setting for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's just cool to see like a show that was made in America has it's gone beyond what I think anybody could have ever anticipated. I don't think I would be shocked to hear if Bernie Burns or anyone who was in the upper management role to say that RWBY would have gone as far as it has, because I think they've always pushed art first and like sales second.
Yeah.
And this has just been a huge hit for them.
Yeah, and when it comes to Rooster Teeth, it's been a company that I've always found really refreshing in that they will make something because they really want to make it and they want to see it happen, rather than, well, this sounds like we could make money out of it.
Yeah.
And every single time they do it, they end up making something that, at the very least, it looks as good as it could for that thing. And sometimes it just doesn't take off. They'll do one series or one thing, and then that's it. And
they're always experimenting, which I love. And when the things that they do, even if they don't do well, I feel like they give them good send-offs. I don't think they've ever left a show hanging. They've always tried to, like, if they made the effort to make it and then they're going to end it, they've made a point to, like, try to put it on a note where they're creatively okay with it at that point and then move on.
Yeah.
But and even I've always just had huge respect for Rooster Teeth, just because even if I don't enjoy it, like, I don't enjoy the movies they put out, but I give them huge props to the fact that they're like, we crowdfunded this, we put the movie out, and you know what, we want to support the fans, we want to support so I give them kudos for that, you know. And the fact that they continue to support RWBY the way it is, like, it is one of their titans now. Would you say, I think it dwarfs Red vs. Blue.
I would say RWBY is definitely more well known, I think, at this point, worldwide. Definitely more well known. However, I still think Red vs. Blue is... I think Red vs. Blue is going to be one of those things that it's going to keep going for a while, and it's going to be big, and it's going to be synonymous with Rooster Teeth. And,
well, it was the first show, so...
Right, exactly. And I think that RWBY... I don't think RWBY's going to go as long as Red vs. Blue, and I think...
I am so terrified of that. I really hope they have, like... I don't want it to end anytime soon, but I hope that they have an end mark in mind.
I feel like Monty would have written an end for the characters.
Yeah.
It might not be this will happen after this mini season, but I feel like Monty will have written what will be the final thing for these characters. So I'm not worried there.
Well, I'm not worried, and as much as it pains me to say, I don't think Monty had an idea where he was going to end the story, but I feel like Miles and Carrie are carrying on the legacy well. To see the growth, even after Monty sadly passed, the plot where they took the characters, I was so stunned with, like, some of the shocking reveals. Like, even after, like, season 3, you're like, oh, whoa! Because, like, it's not most anime, like, they're not willing to take a risk, and RWBY always took a risk at the end of a season. You're like, not every character came away okay.
Yeah.
I was always shocked by that. I was like, I feel like when they did that, I'm trying to avoid spoilers for, like, season 2 and 3, but, like, when they started to do certain things with characters, I'm like, oh, no character's safe.
Yeah, no, I'm fairly certain I know what you're talking about, and that's respect. But
yeah,
but yeah, it is something that is something that I appreciate in anime, really, as well, is especially some of the ones that I've found more recently, such as Knights of Sidonia and Attack on Titan, as well, being that you have a show that is great, well done, like, great story, and then you also have to come to the understanding that if it works better for the story, like, characters will go. There's no everyone say, I mean, obviously, without trying to get too much away, the main 4 reasonably safe because the show is called RWBY. But
true, but they've had some sacrifices for them.
Oh yeah, that's not to say that they come away completely squeaky clean. Yeah, it's it is cool to see a show that's willing to do what it needs to do to have such a compelling story, and even in this series, like, it doesn't feel like, especially compared to later series, it doesn't feel like there's huge things that characters really need to deal with. But in this first series, as we said earlier, that they really started delving into an entire subsection of society just being shunned and looked down upon. Yeah. And then having you realize that one of the main characters is from this, and having to see who's going to come forward. Like, is someone going to stand up, or are they going to continue to shun them? Like, how's it going to go? Are any of the characters going to grow because of this?
Or if they have to develop.
Yeah, and it's something that it's a show that started out as something obviously Monty thought of, and then it was just trailers that was just action. And it's like, oh, this is just going to be almost just like a shonen type show. It's kind of how it was coming across from the trailers, and then even from the first episode, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're willing to kind of do this, and you're really building this interesting world, and I thoroughly enjoyed rewatching it, especially when they have the students go for the initiation. I thought that was such a great thing that they did, where they literally
catapults.
Yeah, they literally launched these kids into the unknown with no preparation.
Your landing strategy? What landing strategy?
Yes, it's just. Yeah, and what is the landing strategy? Well, bye.
No, but because I have to bring it up, I've been dying to find a way to segue, and this is the perfect moment. Oh, I love the boop.
Ah, yes, the boop. Yeah.
I love those two characters. I don't know why. I kind of like Team Juniper more than Ruby.
Well,
I feel terrible saying that, but I love that whole crew.
They are really cool. And it's something that, as we kind of said before, it's really telling for a show that you can look forward to the, in air quotes, side characters.
Yeah.
As much, if not more so, than the main characters.
There were 2 whole episodes in season 1 dedicated to Team Juniper.
Yeah.
No, 3. Wait, let's see. I'm looking at like the episode list. 1, 2, 3. That was 4 episodes they dedicated to Team Juniper out of 16 episodes.
Yeah, and like that does the way you say it like that. So 4 out of 16, so a quarter of it dedicated to the others, and you go, okay, well that means the rest are dedicated to. And that's not the case. No. The opening few episodes are obviously Ruby and the others coming to the academy. You're getting a lot of world building there, and then most of the rest of the episodes are huge, like multi-storyline things. So you have Ruby, and then you also have what becomes Juniper and what becomes Cardinal, and you have the stuff that's going on with others. So it's really not that many episodes that focus solely on Ruby. So I think there's actually more focus on Juniper than anything else in this series, but you have the really big moments with Ruby. So
yes, yeah. Did they reveal the Team Juniper's bedroom compared to Team Ruby? I love Team Ruby's bedroom of bunk beds tied together with ropes.
Well, I mean, you know that was all Ruby right there.
I know, but it's so amazing. Like every time I was rewatching it again, I'm like, I love that bedroom. It's a total hazard. Someone should die.
Yeah.
It works.
And then, of course, the Achievement Hunter poster.
Of course. I do love it when they sneak those Easter eggs. I even love like when they're preparing that bedroom, like Blake is like pulling up her books, and then she has like one book like Sexy Ninjas or something like that. She's sneaking under her bed.
Yeah, well, you know.
But it's just really funny. Like we were talking about earlier about how they just snuck in things that like just made it in, like one snuck in stuff about other shows they do, or making it very aware this is Rooster Teeth, guys, remember. But the little things like that like remind us like each person has their own quirks. I love that they pointed out even like when there's that lunch scene when they're torturing that other fauna. If you look on the table and see what each person's eating, it's in line with their character. So in front of Ruby, she's eating cookies, and Jean's eating chicken nuggets.
Yep, sounds about right.
But it's just crazy how attentive to detail they were. And the thing that blew me away, like this is how far in detail that Miles, Carrie, and Monty went into. So you were talking about earlier about the newscaster guy.
Yeah.
The newscaster guy had a name. It's never mentioned in the show, but this is how far they went. His name was Cyril, and last name Marillion, so that his full name was Sarah Marillion.
Of course it was.
Every character had if they introduced a character, the character had to be related in some way to a color or something. It's like, really? You guys went that far? And like, apparently I found out like they still do that kind of stuff. Like they're always hinting those small details, even just super obscure characters. Because I would doubt that the newscaster is a side character.
Yeah.
But the fact that they go that far to like, how dedicated are we to this craft of fleshing out the world? Like even the characters have unique, odd names.
Yeah, and it's really interesting as well because I find that I have trouble remembering the names of some characters, especially if they haven't been on screen for very long. And I feel that if I were to rewatch each season, then it would come more easily to me the names of all the characters. But I find that even if I don't necessarily remember the names of the characters, I definitely still remember the characters. Yeah. So, and that's something to be said because there are, as you may have gathered from listening to this, and obviously, hopefully, you've seen the show before listening to us talk this far, but there are so many characters in the show, and none of them feel like they're just by the wayside. Even Penny turns up right towards the end, and it's clear straight away that she is a character that will continue to show up. And
keep an eye on Penny.
Yep. How are you doing that? Yes, you'll find out.
Yes. So, yeah, just a show, just in retrospective, like, keep in mind, like, there was a ton of love and craft that went into the show. The one fight scene of where they're fighting the Raven and the Scorpion was all animated by Monty, and he did that in 3 weeks. That whole animatic.
Oh, dear. Yeah, that guy must not have slept in 3 weeks.
So, like, as they were going through the director commentary, like, they identified what animators were on which episodes and which. But anytime it was like the big scene, like he handled it, and I just couldn't imagine one person animating all of that we saw, because like that was the show like how good the fight animations and how well they're choreographed. Because one of the big things that always blew me away about Monty, his whole philosophy was that if there's motion, you have to justify the motion. So if I always pay attention to Ruby in the show, when she's moving really fast, aside from her little power, when she's moving fast, she's always shooting a bullet. She's building her momentum off bullets.
Yeah, that's why her size is also a gun.
Yeah, and like Yang with her gauntlets, like the gauntlets give her the motion for her powerful attacks. Blake having to use the rope to build up her inertia as she's going around objects. Nora using the hammer blast to shove her across the area. It was just very meticulous of how his philosophy worked with motion, and it still holds true to today, which I'm very happy about. That was when they really started changing the style and they've moved away from the original ideas. They were still very clear. Like the thing that's always held true is that the motion has to be held true. Like that like I've been rambling about the craft, the dedication they have. Monty spent 3 whole weeks on capturing that idea of motion, and it's cool to see that they've carried it on to today.
Yeah, and it is interesting because you get a lot of shows where, and yeah, this one does have it as well, but a lot of shows where the whole thing about how can a character do this is just they have the ability to. So it's not just, it's like, oh, well, they have the supernatural abilities that let them do this. And in this show, it is very, very clear exactly where these guys are getting their ability. Like you have Ruby, who, as you say, she's able to go really, really quickly, but it's quite clear that she's getting it from her equipment, and she's able to use it really well. And then you've got Weiss, who most of her abilities come from dust, which is material in the world that enables spells and spell-like things to happen. And then you've got Yang, who she has the gauntlets, and then she also... I never fully understand in the show. Does she actually glow like a Super Saiyan, or is that in her head? That's her just...
No, that's something she actually puts off. It's part of her semblance.
Yeah.
So because she can activate it, if she activates it, that's what happens to her body. And so any damage she takes at that moment, she can redirect it.
Yeah, that's... I was trying to remember exactly how it went, and it was something that wasn't coming to mind, but it's like... It's something that I found really interesting, that they were able to say most of the abilities that these guys are showing off are either directly from equipment or things that they have, and then on top of that, their natural abilities. So a lot of faunus have the animal that they are like, they have the abilities of those animals on top of being able to use everything else. So it comes down to a lot of stuff like that, and then you have the slight additional superhuman stuff on top of that they do. So it's interesting that it's not just a show of, oh, everyone is able to fly. Or
no, it's very clear that they point out that, like, you have to train, as most clearly pointed out by Jean.
Yes,
you have to get good, son.
Yeah, you can't just be good. You gotta get good.
Yeah, get good. So I figure we've been going on. Do you want to start wrapping it up?
Yeah, I was
okay.
Say, so, like, do you have any? I mentioned mine at the beginning. Do you have a favorite moment, or even just a line or anything from the show from this season?
Boop.
Yeah. Okay. Boop.
I will always have, just because I grew to love Nora and Ren out of that scene. But I would have to say, like, when Jean is on the roof with Pyrrha, I will always find that scene endearing, just because it's someone who's like, he's clearly like he's the jokester guy, but he's actually like opening up, like, I don't belong here, but I'm going to strive to be here. Like, you all recognize that I'm not the best, but because I'm not the best, I have to be the best for you all, to identify your strengths and make you be, just, I don't know. There's just so much that was going on in that one scene that just nailed it for me, and Miles nailed the direction of it, that totally reshaped the image of that character in my mind.
Yeah. And it's cool. You have these really important story beats and really strong moments in the show, in a show that's about just these weird things, and it all feels perfectly natural in this show.
They do. Like, there's still an emotional scene with, like, Sun and Blake later in the season, but I don't know why that one's still emotional, but I feel like it's more one-sided, because Sun is just being Sun.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, really? Tell me more. Just like, he's really jovial about this whole conversation over tea, or tea and coffee, by the way. Yeah, but like, with John and Pyrrha it's looking at the moon and just having to come to terms with who each other were. It's like, oh, okay, this is really well done.
Yeah, I mean, that was a fantastic scene, and obviously I mentioned my favorite line earlier, but I think my favorite thing, and it made him better with what you were saying earlier. But the fight scene between the teams and the Flying Grim and the Scorpion Grim, that to me kind of sums up this series. It's just a lot of action, a lot of insane choreography, and being able to see each character kind of use their own abilities, and that you even have Blake almost falling away at one point. Like, she misjudges something and she's not able to do it, and she's sort of able to catch herself with her sort of gun / grappling hook thing. Not sure what to call it, but yeah, it's such a fun scene, and I was very much looking forward to re-seeing that bit. I had completely forgotten about the who's that? Oh, bit, and so it was just fun again when I rewatched it. But yeah, that was.
So you got your and I got my boop.
Yeah. I could not recommend this show enough to pretty much anyone that likes anime, anyone that likes Rooster Teeth, and just anyone looking for a fun show to watch. Now, I do happen to know some people, my sister included, that will absolutely refuse to watch this, whether it's just because they don't want to
like
watch.
RWBY tends to break the trend. Like, I feel like that if you were to give me, if you wanted to, because we were talking about beginner anime, I feel like RWBY would be the first one to like really help to break that mold of people. Like, if you like this, then like try this, you know.
No, I definitely agree there, but like my sister, for instance, she hates watching animated things. The reason she gave me years ago when I asked her why she doesn't like watching animated things, like even The Simpsons, doesn't want to watch it because it's not real. That was what she said.
You can't watch any Disney movies either?
I don't know. She said before, I think it might just be TV shows. I don't know if films are okay. But yeah, watching animated TV shows she didn't enjoy because they weren't real people acting it out.
They weren't real.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know how to break it to her that supernatural doesn't actually happen either. It's people in costumes. But,
you hold your tongue, Dean, and whatever his name is, our
Sam.
true saviors of Sam. I've still only seen season 1, so I've never kept up on it. Season 1 I liked, but I was like, I don't know if I want to dedicate 20 seasons of this in my life.
Hey, there's only 14 at this point.
14 with 26 episodes, an hour apiece. Like, nope.
Let's see. Yeah, there's 23 or 24 or 25 or 26 in each season, except for season 3 when they did a half season for some reason. So
I don't have the time.
Yeah, fair enough.
I am not. Even if I like the show, if I were to want to catch up, and I wanted to appreciate the show for what it is, like I would have to just start doing long haul, and I couldn't sit and binge it because I would get annoyed with it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But you know what show you can sit and binge fairly easily? RWBY. So
yes, you can. Each season is very digestible at between between 2 hours to 3 hours, depending on the length of the season. Like I said, every episode is different in lengthwise. So, and not only that, I like that you could just watch, even if you don't have like a whole half hour. Not every episode's a half hour. You can just watch a 10-minute episode and you can be on your day.
Yeah, and I will say, anyone that has only seen the first season of this, the first episode of season 2 has possibly just my favorite thing that occurs in the entirety of RWBY, which would be the food fight scene.
Oh, season 2! I love. If anyone needs a reason why they should love the show, is that scene. I think we both have mentioned how much we love that little bit.
Yeah, I mean it's something that I wasn't expecting it to happen, and then it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So it was...
It's so good. I bet I could sell anyone on RWBY just with that scene alone. Like, if you like this whole show's like this.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are just starting, and you're like, I like this, you're gonna have your mind blown at the first episode of season 2. You're gonna be like, I am sold for the rest of my life.
Yes.
Gosh, I love that fight scene.
So yes, in closing,
Yes.
everyone watch RWBY, especially the first episode of season 2.
Yes.
Which is a great
Definitely.
thing to mention on a retrospective of season 1. So.
Yes. So definitely give it a watch. We've been giving it our praise, but I really when you watch it. I really want people who have never seen it before, if you go back and rewatch it, just really pay attention to the little things they've thrown in there, and just recognize how much love and work they put into this. Like, just to find out that it took Monty 3 weeks to animate all those characters for that one fight scene. One.
Yeah, and that's another thing as well. Like, yes, it took him 3 weeks to do one fight scene, but think about it back then. It only took him 3 weeks to do that one fight scene.
One man.
So. Yeah, it insane, and as we said, Monty will be sorely missed, because I can only imagine what else this show could have done if he was still around.
If you do want to go see some other stuff by him, he has 2 series that I really love to death. Is it called Haloid?
It was, yes.
Yeah, and then there's Haloid is a really cool fun short he created, and then there's Dead Fantasy. Dead Fantasy is awesome, which is his Dead or Alive characters versus Final Fantasy characters.
I've not seen that one. I've seen Haloid, and I know that Haloid was basically what ended up being his audition for joining Rooster Teeth.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. It was,
for a fun fact, if you listen to the season 10 commentary, you find out the reason. So Monty was offered a job at Rooster Teeth at like season 7, and Monty didn't understand the email. They literally gave him a full-on job offer, and he didn't understand what they were saying. So he went like multiple years not understanding that they had given him a full-time offer, and then because he misunderstood the email.
Oh dear.
It's just like, Monty, no!
I mean, that is entirely Monty, but...
That is?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a fun side fact. But all right, on that note, everybody.
Yes, thank you for sticking with us this far, and hopefully we've encouraged you to watch/rewatch RWBY Season 1, and more so past that.
Yes.
I think with all of that being said, I've been Paul.
I've been Pat.
And we'll see you next time. Bye. Hi there, Paul here with a quick theatre etiquette lesson for you. Did you know that opening a bag of candy can take less than 5 seconds?